Hey, good morning, everybody. May I get a 5 by 5 from somebody? I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. All right. A lot of you here this morning. Thank you for coming and for putting up with me. And thank you, Charlie. All right. Okay. I am not Captain Tommy Scoville. You were still on the lifeboat. I'm AKA Heather Joy. I'm a little punchy, just like Johnny was the other day. The last 2 days I've had maybe 4.5, 5 hours of sleep. I'm tired, but I'll do my best, guys. uh, Let me just run through the rules really very quickly here. And I don't remember what order they're supposed to go in, but I do remember what they are. Number one, please refrain from cursing. Second one, we don't discuss politics on this channel unless it's something very specific regarding drugs. Anyway, let's see. While it's okay to say things like, I couldn't have gotten sober without God, or I'm going to pray for you. Those are all fine. Just don't venture into those areas of my God is better than your God, or you're not getting into heaven because, none of that. And finally, there's just no place here for trolls, for mean people. The things that we discuss here are often very painful for the people that are talking about them. And so, if you're going to be mean, you're going to get kicked off and banned. So, though I haven't seen much of that lately, but I'm not really looking either. And anyway, before I get started this morning with what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to let you guys know about something I found. If you are familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson, he's the psychologist from Toronto that has joined the Daily Wire, with Ben Shapiro, that bunch of guys. I've listened to his lectures, the old lectures that were recorded when he used to teach at, the University of Toronto. I know he was teaching in Toronto, but anyway, there's a whole bunch of his videos online, old ones, from his lecturing days, and they're great. I love to listen to them. You get so much out of them, and there's a lot of hope there for picking up the pieces of your life and getting them in order and getting on with things. So I've always been really impressed with the man. I'm trying to get through one of his books. His books are thick, but anyway, he has come up with I don't even know what to call it. It's like it's 100 question. It's got 100 questions on it. It's, when you complete all of the questions, it gives you a very precise definition of your own personality. It covers, it covers the areas of enthusiasm, withdrawal, compassion, industriousness, and what did I write there? Openness. And there's and it covers all the aspects of each one of those too. When you finish it, you really do have you are able to really get to know yourself a lot better. You can see where what things you might need to work on. You can see where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, things like that. Just knowing what I know of him and everything that I've seen from him thus far, I'm always been so impressed with them. And so I went ahead and I bought two of these, like one for myself and one for my husband, because once we fill all that stuff out and we get our reports back, they can also um, put you together as a couple, and tell you the same things as far as both of you as a couple. And I just think it's a wonderful tool, especially if you are trying to get sober, if you're newly sober, you're still not sure about who you are, and what things you're really good at, what things you're not so good at, things like that. This is a really good tool to help figure yourself out, get to know yourself a lot better. It's also wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to have in hand if you decide to get some counseling, see a therapist, something like that, because you can take that with you, and it will give your therapist or your counselor, a much better idea of who you are, and what you need. So I put the link in the description. Let's see what else did I want to tell you about it. I was very impressed in for just one test. It's about $10. For a couple it was 20. I mean, that's extremely reasonable, because to get any kind of testing usually is quite expensive. So I was really tickled to find that. And let's see, you can find it under understandmyself.com. I don't get any money for this or anything. I just really like what this guy does, and I think this would be helpful for everybody. If especially if you're trying to get to know yourself better. So there's that. Anyway, I wanted to talk this morning about setting healthy boundaries, and a few things about really effective communication. And you've got to have effective communication if you want to set some healthy boundaries. And boundaries are something we definitely did not have in the home that I grew up in. I was not even allowed to express my own thoughts or opinions. I was told, what to think, and how to feel, and when to laugh and when to cry. And I don't know. It was just there were no healthy boundaries, and I saw all kinds of ugly things go on because of that. And because of that, my we learned so much growing up. We learned from our parents and from the people around us when we're very young. um and that's how we learn. That's how we learn to communicate and how to get along with people, how to solve problems, all that kind of thing. And me personally, I need work. I got stunted. My development, and my, what would you call it, maybe my emotional intelligence really got stunted. It's something I'm still working on. And boundaries, I'm terrible about boundaries. And I think one of the big reasons for it, used to be that I had such poor self-esteem. um that's gotten a lot better. But I think I've wrecked so many relationships. Just destroyed my life. I destroyed my first marriage. um just left a wake of destruction everywhere I went because of my addiction. And so when after I went through rehab, and I really got sober, I felt like everybody around me, was just waiting for me to mess up again. They just knew I was going to. And, I was trying desperately to get back in everybody's good graces. And so, anybody in my family, my husband, my mother, my siblings, anybody, all they had to say was jump. And I'd say, okay, how high? I felt like I had so much to make up for that I didn't set any boundaries for myself. um, it's not a good thing. And to this day, I struggle with a lot of guilt. in setting boundaries, but I know I have to do it. And, I know it's really important, but I'm sure I'm not the only recovered addict that has experienced that, where you feel like you don't have the right to set boundaries because of all the damage you've done. But it's not, that it's really not true. But you sure feel and think that way. I remember that very distinctly. Um, so I just want to briefly just talk about, why do we need boundaries? Boundaries, they keep us safe, physically and psychologically, and they really are necessary. If you have been able, if you have, whether it's a spouse or, a significant other, one of your parents or a dear friend, it doesn't matter what the relationship is, you still uh, need to establish boundaries so that both of you know what is expected. You know where you stand, what lines not to cross. I mean, it's really not being selfish, to want to set up boundaries to protect yourself, because in doing so, that reduces a lot of the stress, um, fixes a lot of the issues that could pop up if you hadn't done so. Um, I suck at it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it today. But they really do keep us safe. And there are 7 basic types of boundaries that you might need to set. The first one would be physical. And this is mostly to protect your space and your body. Um, it's also, to protect your right to meet your own physical needs, to eat and to sleep. Um, it's also, it's supposed to um, ensure that you have personal privacy, that kind of thing. Um, the second one is a sexual, the sexual types of boundaries that, especially with your significant other or your spouse, you need to set that up. And those function, basically to protect your right to consent to, some form of sexual activity. um, it allows you to define what kinds of touch are okay, and for people that have been through, um, gosh, I don't even know if I can say that word on YouTube. um, People that have experienced abuse of this nature, this is a really important one that you need to set up. You need for the other person to know what is okay and what is not okay, and how and when and where they can touch you, that kind of thing. Um, it's and so it might be kind of uncomfortable at first to get those boundaries set, but that's an important one, especially if you have had a history of that type of abuse. um but really, it's supposed to also allow you to ask for what you want sexually in a relationship. Let's see, the third one would it's more of an third one be more of an emotional, mental, those type of boundaries. Those would be, to protect your right to own your own feelings and own your own thoughts, um, and to not have them criticized, um, or invalidated by other people. Would also make it possible. I don't know, how am I trying to say this? It's freeing for you so that you don't have to be responsible for anybody else's feelings but your own. And that's something I've had to struggle with. And I still to this day find myself worrying about everybody in the room but me. And that was because of the house I grew up in. I I was walking on eggshells all the time and doing everything I could to keep my mother happy, because when she lost it, it was terrifying, and I was constantly monitoring, the feeling in the room and the moods of everybody, and I was constantly doing things to try to keep people happy. I felt responsible, and it's something I've just had to try to unlearn. I'm still doing that with my husband, though. I mean, and I need to remember that everybody needs to feel their own feelings, and it's really important. I've been working on that one, but I still am catching myself there. But anyway, um, let's see. Yeah, you only need to be responsible for your own emotions and feelings. Um, and this is supposed to help make it possible, for you to respect other people's feelings. And it's also to protect both of you, especially when it's a new relationship, from oversharing. I'm sure everybody's had that experience where an acquaintance starts to spill tea on things that are very uncomfortable for you to hear. That's some serious oversharing. And you don't have to, you have the right to say, whoa, wait a minute, I really don't want to hear this. I'm not comfortable. There's no problem in setting up that boundary. Um, an example of this would be maybe a wife asking her husband not to criticize her in front of the children. I mean, that'd be another example of something, that it could do. The fourth one is a spiritual or a religious type of boundary. And this is pretty self-explanatory, just, is set up to protect your right to believe and worship as you wish, and to not be criticized, to not be made to feel inferior because you have faith in something. I've experienced that before, but that's that's yeah, that one's pretty easy to understand. But the fifth one, the fifth type of boundaries would be financial material type. And that's a needs to be set up, to protect your own resources, whether it's your finances or things that you own. You have the right to protect those, and you also have the right to, I guess, spend money as you choose. Um, and it's okay, to set up a boundary where someone asks you for a loan, or they ask you for some money. I mean, you don't have to, you can set up that boundary and say, no, I'm not comfortable with that, or I can't afford it, or there's, yeah, you don't have to put up with that. Another one would be getting paid a full wage for the work you do. Um, let's see. The sixth type is time, and for me, that's a huge one. I don't have enough of it. Definitely don't have enough of it. Um, but that kind of boundary would protect how you spend your free time, and your time in general, to protect you from having to agree to do something you don't want to do. Um, and I have had to learn this the hard way, but I have to set up boundaries with certain people in my life, so they don't waste my time. And yeah, I've actually lost a friendship or two because of that one. But it had to be done. Um, what did I? Oh, also, time. Another one would be, protection from being overworked. Let's see, the seventh one. This is a big one. These are the non-negotiables. These are um, things that you absolutely have to have met for that relationship to exist and to continue. Um, that this could pertain to issues, anything like maybe physical violence, emotional abuse, drug and alcohol use, issues of fidelity, or life-threatening health issues. But the thing with this one is that, if there is something that is so important to you, that you can't have happen, or and if it does, then the relationship's done. If you set up that type of boundary, you need to be sure that you follow through, or it's absolutely useless. And good example that I'm thinking of is, um, a husband cheats on his wife, and the wife, forgives him, but says, if you ever step out on me again, this is done. And if he does it again, and she just lets it go again, it's useless. It doesn't even serve a purpose. And so that's some any non-negotiable you have to follow through with. But usually these are very serious and very important and worth the time and communication to set that up with the other person. um there's all kinds of stuff I was finding on different psychology magazines and journals, things like that, about setting up boundaries. And there was a lot of stuff to look through, and I chose to focus on some of the things that I thought would work, between a husband and wife, between boyfriend girlfriend, between people that are engaged, whatever. But it can also work for people you work with friends, with it's just kind of some general ones. But if you are struggling to set boundaries, say at work, what was there's some of the others that I saw. I can't remember right now, but there's a lot. Just a Google search will pull up all kinds of things. I just didn't have time to read through everything that I found. Um, for a relationship to be healthy, you really need the boundaries. And in any healthy relationship, those boundaries are really integral. They help maintain a balance between the two people that are involved in the relationship. Um, it helps minimize conflict. And it also establishes a precedence, as so what is expected of you, and vice versa. you know um and to set boundaries up with people, you really do have to have open communication, as I was saying before. But that just makes for a closer relationship. The first thing that I wanted to suggest here, about establishing boundaries, is to be very honest regarding what you need. You need to be very honest and transparent, when you're discussing boundaries. um, you know you need to settle on things that are, what things you are comfortable with, maybe things that you are not comfortable with. um, the goal here is to know what is going to be expected. Okay. um, and if you've never sat down with this person before and discussed some boundaries, it's a good idea to actually write those down, um, before you go to that person, because then you've got it, much more concrete, up here, and you've got it on paper. And so when you start to have that little twinge of guilt when you're trying to, negotiate these boundaries, you just have to look down at that paper again and remember what the goal is, and remember how important, boundaries really are. Um, yeah, you need to be really clear, about what you want. And just be very, very honest, very transparent about it. But on the other end of things, the other person should expect the same from you, and you should be, listen to what the other person needs as well. Give them the same level of respect and attention that you expect. Let's see. I wrote here, let's see, since you expect the other person to honor your boundaries, I was writing in Spanish. Oh, good grief. It's really important to listen. It's really important to listen fully, to the needs of the other person as well. In a relationship, it's got to be a two-way street. You've got to reciprocate. It's really important. And you should be able to say anything to the other person, but you need to remember that the manner in which you say it says a great deal too. So you need to be careful about the manner in which you say these things. There's so many things. And I so prefer face-to-face communication because, or at least hearing the person's voice, because the tone of a person's voice or the volume, their facial expressions and their eyes and their posture, all of those things are going to say a lot too. And that all goes into the manner in which you say something. Let's see. And then also I found some suggestions where it said, if you're finding this difficult to sit down and set boundaries up with someone, it suggested something. It said try starting with, what does it say, soft startups. And what they were referring to was, when you're trying to get the conversation going. These were some of the suggestions that I found regarding that. And is avoid beginning this conversation with negative emotions. Focus on remaining positive, especially if the person you're trying to set boundaries up with, if they have been difficult and they have crossed what you consider your boundaries before. I have tried to set a few boundaries up with my mother. It doesn't work very well. She lives I can just walk a few minutes this way and I'm at her house. That wasn't by design, but I can be at her place for about 10 minutes and I'm good. But if we're there for family dinner or a birthday or something else is going on. Excuse me just a second, guys. Okay, do you need me to go out and get the chickens? Are you sure? Okay. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Where was I? The soft startups. That's what I was talking about. Okay. So again, it was suggested, when you're trying to get things started, and especially, if the person has been difficult, like I said, avoid, beginning the whole thing with negative emotions. Try to stick to, being positive about everything. Avoid being critical. Let's see. And it says here, if you begin harshly, more than likely, the end of the conversation and your results are going to be the same. And also, avoid attacking the other person. Really try to focus on being positive and keep the goal in mind, which is, hopefully for each of you to understand what's expected, and then to both of you respect those wishes. So that is the goal in the end. It also, I wait, where did, okay, sorry. It also said, I had never heard this before, but it said, remember to avoid the four horsemen. Like the four horsemen of the apocalypse. What there was, what, hunger, war, death, conflict. I can't remember. Anyway, according to this particular, was it Psychology Today? I think this was where I found this, but let's see. The first horseman is criticism. This is where you are attacking another person's character. And a good example of this would be, let's see, I came up with, let's see, so a wife says to her husband, I was really worried when you were late and you didn't call. We agreed that if you're going to be late, you would let me know. Can we please, in the future, can you please make sure and call me? And that would be, I think that's a reasonable complaint. But a criticism would be saying something like, you are so inconsiderate. You never think about the other people in your life, and how you being late affects them, and this is just pathetic. And you could just really, really lay into them. That's criticism. You definitely want to avoid criticism, because if you get a criticism in, you get a good one in, it's going to lead to the next horseman, which they titled contempt. And this isn't criticism as much as it's where you kind of assume a moral superiority over the other person. And this, when you do that, you're treating them with a lot of disrespect. Mocking and using sarcasm, ridiculing, name calling, rolling your eyes, scoffing, and things like that. Those are good. And they are, they're I think they're more harsh than criticism. Let's see. Did I write there? But an example of that would be, say a husband comes home from work and sits down on the couch and he wants to relax for a minute, and he wants to play video games. And the wife comes in and she said, "Oh, you're tired. Cry me a river. I've been here with the kids all day." And I mean, she could just go on and on about that and really try to guilt him into getting up. That's trying to think, just and then throwing in little things like, this is pathetic and I can't believe this. Just that's all some contempt. And I wrote in here, let's see, couples. Okay, couples contemptuous of one another get ill more often. That was right. That's right. I saw there had been a study done, and couples that were at that level, where they were really throwing contempt back and forth, would get colds and flus and infections, things like that. Much more frequently. So it really does, all of those negative emotions really do have a huge impact, not just on your psyche, but your physical health. And you know what? I was thinking about this too. My father died. He was just, oh my goodness, it's coming close to the anniversary of his death. Wow. Anyway, he was 39. He was just 8 days shy of his 40th birthday, when he had cancer. And uh, he was the one that took the brunt of my mother's rage. And I can't help but wonder, if that cancer was a manifestation of all of that, because he didn't defend himself. I mean, he would get extremely upset and angry, but he didn't throw anything back at her like that. He took it, and it used to just rip me apart. I hated to see that. Oh, I hated that. But I can't help but wonder if that cancer wasn't, had a lot to do with everything that was going on in the home, because, I was talking about Gabor Mate last night and all of the research that he has done, um, negative, negative feelings and trapped emotions, and living in constant stress, all of those things, bring on cancer and fibromyalgia and multiple sclerosis, lupus, all those types of autoimmune disorders. I can't help but wonder, Anyway, let's see. The next one is defensiveness. You really want to try to avoid that. And defensiveness is really just a response to criticism. Um, it's when you feel unjustly accused and you fish for excuses, and then you play the innocent victim. That's really what being defensive is. And the example that I wrote down was, a question would be, did you call your parents to let them know that you're not coming as promised? And the answer, the husband would say, I was way too busy today. In fact, just how busy my schedule was. Why didn't you do it? That's really what, he felt unjustly accused. He looked for an excuse, and then he played all innocent. So, played the victim. Yeah, that's exactly what defensiveness is. Um, but it's usually not just defensiveness. It's usually there's some blame thrown in there as well. It really is better to, swallow your pride, admit fault, and just accept responsibility that you screwed up. And yeah. Um, anyway, the fourth horseman is stonewalling. And this is really a response to contempt. When someone is stonewalling, it's usually they're shutting down. This happens to me if my husband and I get into an argument, and it's something serious. Then I shut down. I get so overwhelmed with emotions, and they overwhelm me to where everything is just stuck back here in my limbic system, instead of here in my prefrontal cortex, where I can really be rational and think things through. And I start to shut down, and I will find myself, if my husband continues to talk, and same thing with my mother, if she just continued, I would go somewhere in my head, and I would just shut them out. And it drives my husband crazy, because he wants to assemble things, he wants to come to a solution. And if I shut down like that, I have to walk away. I have to let things calm down, and then I have to slowly let those feelings through one by one and think about them. And it takes me about 24 hours to figure out where I stand and what I think and what I really feel. But I that happens to me. Sometimes it's an automatic thing where you are physiologically overwhelmed. It's more of a, you just really don't want to deal with it, and you just choose to turn away that way. But that's when you stop responding. And this, I was reading more about this one. It can become a bad habit, where you just shut down and you never get anything in the relationship fixed. You don't solve the problem. um if this happens and you find yourself shutting down, it really is best to take a break. And from what I was reading, it suggested at least 20 minutes. And I know personally I need a lot more time than that, but that's what it's suggested. Take a break. um Calm down, think things through. um was I lost that thought, darn it. Anyway, that's the four horsemen. um but yeah, criticism, that's where you the antidote. So what that is, okay, for the antidote, for these issues, if these are going on in your relationship, for criticism, the best antidote, it was suggested, talk about your feelings using I statements. And let's see what it, oh, and express things in positive words. For contempt, the antidote was um, appreciation and gratitude for the other person's qualities. For defensiveness, um, take responsibility, and try to accept the other person's perspective, and even offer an apology if you have done something wrong. And the stonewalling, that said the best thing to do is something that's going to be psychologically soothing. And for me, that'd be a nice hot bubble bath, but just, I like that, but that's what it suggests, is some self-soothing. Let's see, what else have I got here? Okay. Okay. It also suggests that you designate with the other person when you need your personal space. And everybody to some extent needs their me time, their alone time. I know for me, I definitely, if I go to church, or I go to a meeting, just different things, or I, even the lifeboat, after I'm done, I need time. Once I'm finished with whatever it is I was doing, I really need time to just go sit down, kind of just let my mind wander, and things kind of process. And I don't know. I have to get away and recharge. And so my husband's the same way, so there are certain things that, one of the things that we do is we both run, by ourselves, because that's some really good alone time, and you find a lot of solace in that. And then other things that we do, they're just, my time for me would be just doing my herb garden and my flower gardens and the backyard. My husband, same thing, but over by the farm, our big vegetable garden over there. But that's our time. But I always have to have my journal time too, and he respects that, and I have the same for him. But I find it, for me, it's very important. Let's see. Um, it said, don't feel guilty. Just be open about what, when you need time alone. And from what I was reading, it said that the time that you spend in a relationship with another person, especially the quality time, that kind of time is just as that's just as important as your alone time. Everybody needs that, time to think and recharge and just be yourself, by yourself. Let's see. Another one, one of the suggestions was to communicate with respect. Try to use compassion and understanding, and really respect the other person's expectations. That was really all there was on that. Let's see, what did I? Oh, also, I didn't have time to look much into this, but it also suggested that it is very good to set boundaries for yourself. Things like, like for me, I have to run every other day to control my fibromyalgia pain. Just something I have to do. And, if I don't know, my husband and I both, we both train, we both run, and I don't know, it's kind of sacred time. It's just you drop when you need to go and get your run done, it's okay to just drop whatever and go. Anyway, that works for us. But another example would be, say, limiting the time that you spend on social media, maybe limiting the time you play video games, or limiting the hours that you watch television, putting boundaries on grief. I mean, this is just, could be any number of things, but you need, it's very good to kind of have discipline, bring discipline into your life, on your own. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. Anyway, let me just look at the chat for a minute. Scooby, full of hope. Good morning, guys. The guy JT, Dennis, Brace, Rick, Ultra Maga, Rick Smith, John Doe, Crazy Cat. Let's see. I love it. There's so many of you here. This is awesome. Rhonda, good morning. Scooby, did I say Scooby? There's M. Hunt, Charlie. Charlie's always here. Charlie's awesome. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody. Oh, Training Human. Good morning. Wow. See? Oh, Kimberly Ray. Hello. What else? Don't want to miss anybody. Blue Dazzlebug. I saw that. Lemmy's here. Okay, I think that's everybody. Anyway, thank you for coming. It's kind of crazy that there's so many of us that get up really early and meet online, but it's a good thing. At least for us it is. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. I don't think I will be on this evening. I think Tommy will be back this evening. But anyway, have a great day. I will talk to you guys later.